Adam Walker, how would you describe the British National Party to any young person who has very little experience of politics?
I'd like to thank you, Toby, for inviting me here today, first of all. The British National Party, well, we offer an alternative to the mainstream parties. We're a nationalist party, which means that we believe in the love of our family, our nation, our people, and our country. So that sums it up in a nutshell, I would suggest.
From a political point of view, political commentators and scientists often refer to your party as fascist. Where do you agree or disagree with that?
I think we're seeing fascism at work today, actually, in the political system. I mean, we're not fascists at all, we're nationalists, and there's a big difference. The difference being, of course, is that we appreciate our country, we appreciate our people, and we appreciate our family, and it's the love of our country and of our family that brings us to where we are today.
If Islam, according to your manifesto last year, is, quote, incompatible with modern secular Western democracy, how can the BNP explain the 13 Muslim MPs in Parliament, with 8 of them being women?
Yeah, Islam is, it's one of those things. It can be a bit of a problem, and we do realise that not all Muslims are the same, but there are certain elements within the Islamic community who are extremists. We've seen results of that with various media coverage in the past. So, we do have a bit of a problem on our hands with regards to that religion, and we don't believe that it's compatible with our Western ways of life, as we've seen from media coverage.
But in our democracy, if Muslims are being elected, then surely there is at least some compatibility with our democracy, surely?
Yes, but how are they being elected? That's the question.
In the same manner that everyone else is.
Indeed, I would agree totally. Yes, in areas where Muslims make up the majority of the population.
If Sadiq Khan is such a significant contender in the mayor election, currently polled in a very strong position, then how is Muslim incompatible with our democracy?
But it's not our way. It's not our way, and it's not our belief pattern. It doesn't work in a Western society. It just doesn't work. And basically, what we say is that we need a divorce from Islam.
Right. Could you blame the decline in electoral support for the BNP on the rise of parties like UKIP and splinter parties in organisations such as the EDL and Pegida? Or is it just perhaps a realisation amongst your former voters that the British values are changing?
Yeah, British values are changing, and we have gone through a rough time. We won't deny that, but we still stay here. We remain an option for people in the democratic society in which we live. So, if people want to vote for us, they can. If they don't want to vote for us, then that's up to them.
But are UKIP and Pegida and the EDL a cause in the decline for electoral support, do you reckon?
Possibly at this point in time, but it swings and roundabouts. I mean, peaks and troughs, it happens in politics. So, as long as we remain in the field and we remain an option for people, then we can put our hands on our hearts and say that we've tried. Now,
recently a Derbyshire police sergeant has said that organisations such as yours and the EDL are comparable to ISIS in their ability to achieve, and I quote, community division, hatred and deplorable acts. Mm-hmm. To what extent do you agree with that?
I totally disagree with it. We've actually sent a complaint to Derbyshire Police and the IPCC about those comments, and we think it's total and utter nonsense. It's disgraceful that he should liken our legal political party to such people such as ISIS, who regularly behead people, put them in cages and burn them and rape women.
Yeah. Focusing on the term he used, community division, encouraging, as you said, a divorce from Islam, is that not promoting community division?
Community division already exists. I mean, you just need to go around places. I'll be going to London later today, and you can see that community division, it's self-imposed. There are certain areas where the communities are divided. Now, that's not multiculturalism. That's totally the opposite of multiculturalism. It's segregation, and it's self-segregation by those communities. So, it's already happening.
Is a divorce from Islam instead encouraging segregation?
What we're saying in the British National Party is that we need to seriously think about the spread of Islam, and the way that it's portrayed in the media, the way that certain individuals behave who are associated with Islam, and it needs to we need to cut ourselves away from it.
Your manifesto states that you want to, and I quote, uphold our hard-won right to free speech. Does that right extend to everyone?
There are limits to free speech. I mean, obviously, behead those who insult Islam and various other placards that we've seen and various other things. But yes, everybody should have the right to free speech. But if it's inciting racial hatred, if it's inciting people to hurt others and treat them inhumanely, then we believe that that would need to be stopped.
So the race attacks and religious discrimination against Muslims, that is a
well, nobody should be attacking anybody. This is the problem, and we don't agree that people should attack other people for whatever reason. That there are other methods of making things better than people physically attacking each other and hurting each other.
But recorded attacks on Muslims are on the rise.
Yes.
Is there any way that a BNP government could combat that?
Well, we could combat it. Yeah, interesting question. We could combat it by communicating with the Muslim community, asking them to get behind their leaders, to get behind ideas to make. Speaking with their leaders and helping them realise that there are certain ways and certain laws that should be adhered to in this country.
When I first had a look at the website of the British National Party, and in fact the 2015 manifesto of the British National Party, I saw quotes from Enoch Powell. To what extent do you agree with his views?
Well, I think a lot of people agree with Enoch Powell's views, and indeed today we've had the Archbishop of Canterbury saying that people who disagree with mass migration and immigration should not be called racist. So that's quite nice. That's interesting to hear that, because that means that that because I disagree with immigration and I disagree with mass migration into this country, that I'm not a racist. So that's good. It's good to hear that. And Enoch Powell, I think there'll be a lot of people who look back on Enoch Powell and think, perhaps we should have listened to him.
Entirely?
Not entirely, perhaps, no. But some of his words do ring true.
Which ones don't?
Well, he did say that it's never too late to save your country, and we believe that, and that's why we're here and we exist.
Right. Please explain how Britain is, and I quote, a multicultural shithole.
That's an interesting one.
I think you said it in 2013.
I did indeed, yes. Parts of Britain have become unrecognisable, totally unrecognisable, and unfortunately, that creates a lot of problems for people. I'll be going down to London, like I say, this weekend, and there are people. I'll be working in Hornchurch, Romford, places like that, and there are people there. I'll be in Dagenham. Dagenham's a typical example whereby the whole of the population is being replaced. Population replacement. It's unacceptable.
Replaced with British people?
No, with Somalians and Africans.
Who then become British?
Well, they may get a British passport, yes.
The Syrian refugee crisis. I'm keen to know your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? The Syrian refugee crisis, because if our government weren't busily engaged in bombing in the Middle East and destabilising the Middle East along with America, then we wouldn't have as many people coming across and being destabilised and having their country wrecked and their homes ruined and people bombed. So we don't agree that we should be bombing other countries in any way, shape or form.
Would you send the Syrian refugees back to Syria?
The Syrian refugees, first of all, we would stop bombing their country. That's that's got to be a priority. We don't believe in bombing anybody's country. It's sickening to think the amount of money that can be found to bomb countries when we're in austerity measures in this country. We can always find money for that. We can find money for the EU. We can always find money for foreign aid. And we ask, why can't the Syrian refugees, they're seeking asylum, they should. What about sending them to, or asking them to go to, or asking some of the Middle Eastern countries to take them in? That would seem more sensible, less of a dangerous journey for them, and it's a lot closer to them. And of course, they are Muslim countries as well, where they could feel comfortable.
They're not allowed to come find a better life in Western Europe.
Well, I can't blame people for wanting to find a better life at all. But it's like I said, it's a numbers game. I mean, are we expected to absorb the whole of the Syrian country into this country and expect to have the same standard of living that we've had and enjoyed?
They don't deserve that.
What?
The same quality of life that we've enjoyed.
Well, of course they deserve it, but we need to stop bombing the country and help them make their country better and make it stronger, so that they can enjoy their life in their country.
Do you support the junior doctors in their current industrial action?
Yes, we do. Yeah, it's important. I mean, the doctors work very hard. They work very long hours, and the government have caused a lot of trouble for people with regards to contracts. They've forced the contract on the doctors. They've done the same with the zero-hour contracts. I think we've got almost 1 million people now on such contracts. And people like yourself, you can't make your life better by being on a 0 hours contract, because you don't know, you can't plan, you don't know where your next pennies are coming from, you don't know, you can't budget for things, you can't buy a car because you don't know how you're going to do that. So yes, we do agree with the junior doctors, and we fully support them, yes. And we think if our government has almost £60 million a year a day to chuck into the European Union, how about using that to help our NHS? They throw £13.5 billion a year away in foreign aid. How about using that to help our people in the NHS and help provide healthcare for people?
Would you, just going back on that foreign aid point, would you direct that foreign aid back to Syria or not?
We wouldn't pay any foreign aid at all.
Not to Syria, so you can't help resettle the Syrian refugees?
We could stop bombing them for a start, and we could use the money that we're using to bomb them and kill their families and their friends to help stabilise the country again.
Isn't that foreign aid?
No, it's money that would be spent on bombs.
But using it instead on foreign aid to Syria?
No, it's money that would be spent on bombs, and rather than spend it on bombs and bombing people, we could spend it and help them recreate their country and make it a safer place for them in which to live.
What I'm saying is making the country a safer place, mm-hmm. and helping the refugees, that's a form of foreign aid.
Well, it is, but it's not part of the 13.5 billion foreign aid budget that we have at the minute.
No, so instead of, so you don't mean you wouldn't spend any in foreign aid, you'd give some?
We could give the same amount of money that we're spending bombing those people.
Right, okay. Final question. If you were an American voter this November, mm-hmm. who would you want to see the next president of the United States?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be Obama. It would definitely be Trump.
Trump?
Yeah.
Which only makes me want to ask, to what extent do you agree with Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, he's going out there, he's putting his neck on the line, he's saying a few controversial things, so,
Controversial is good?
Well, it creates debate, doesn't it? And debate is good.
But he's a current front runner to be actual next president of the United States.
Yeah.
So you still want controversial when he's in the White House?
Well, why not?
Adam Walker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.